So we go on to the New England Patriots here, and there's obviously not a whole lot of relevancy with this Patriots offense. There's Mac Jones. He's not fantasy relevant. Then there's the wide receivers. Jacoby Myers we might talk about him, but Dylan, we discussed Damian Harris a little bit in the beginning of the show with the running backs. Right now, he's just going outside as RB28. Do you think Damian Harris can be a RB2 this season?
No, because Pierre's strong. No, I'm about it. I'm all aboard Mr. D Harris. I know I like him a lot. I think they're going to use him. His contract's coming to an end here soon. His tenure in New England will probably be ending up here soon, which might be why they took a flyer on a 6th round back and strong. They also got Stevenson. They have a loaded backfield, and sometimes that might scare people away. But you got to understand, Damian Harris was that dude last year. When he was on the field, he was all over the place. He put up solid numbers. He was able to hit holes and basically have those big runs and also score touchdowns. He's going to carry this team. And I know they say they want to throw more and break open the shell a little bit of Mac Jones a little bit and throw the ball. And I know they got so many weapons, and Devante Parker among many on the offensive side, on the outside. Mr. Aaron loves them. But, I do think Damian Harris is still going to be a solid running back, top 24. I think he's right around 24-ish. He's not going to be a top 10 guy, but he'll put up numbers that still make him a solid RB2, RB1. Yeah, RB2.
Dylan, Damian Harris or Miles Sanders?
Did my computer freeze, or are you guys not talking?
Okay, I was like, did you freeze?
Did you hear what I said? Damian Harris or Miles Sanders?
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. I'm going to go with Mr. Damian Harris. I think he scores more touchdowns.
Okay. Damian Harris or AJ Dillon?
Damian Harris. More volume.
Okay. Damian Harris or Elijah Mitchell?
I hate Elijah Mitchell.
These are all running backs going ahead.
I look at the list. I got the same list pulled up right now. Antonio Gibson.
Well, I'm not going to go down. I mean, there's some that I know your answer. Like, I'm not going to throw out Damian Harris or Clyde. I know how much you hate Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So that one would just be like, I'm aware of these running backs that you actually dislike. So I'm not trying to give you the easy ones. Aaron, what do you have to say?
I kind of disagree. I think Damian Harris is going to be the guy. But last year, Damian Harris was, sensational, right? He had 15 touchdowns. Is Damian Harris going to score 15 touchdowns again this year? I don't think so. I don't know if the Patriots offense is going to score 15 touchdowns.
Oh, my gosh.
And we're talking – you can say, oh, my gosh, all you want, but we watched a team that refused to throw the football in a game just because they were trying to protect themselves from Mac Jones. And when Mac Jones was asked to go win games, he can't do it. I don't care what nobody says. He can't do it. We saw that in the playoff game when he did nothing but throw picks. This is a team that doesn't have an offensive identity right now. We could talk about them. They wanted to run the football and run play action. They don't have the weapons on the outside to do that. They have to turn around and hand the ball off 35 times. And if we're saying they're going to open up the offense, then what does that do? Damian Harris ain't going to catch passes. That's going to be James White. He doesn't. Maybe Pierre Strong comes in and catches passes, but I know it's not going to be Damian Harris. And so I think we have to temper the expectations a little. Talk about touchdown dependent. This isn't Jonathan Taylor running behind the Colts offensive line with a good offense and a good team and a great defense. Like, this is the New England Patriots we're talking about, who they've done nothing.
We don't even know who their offensive coordinator is.
They don't have one. We do. It's they said what's his name's going to call plays.
It's Matt Judge,
Griffin Murphy.
Patricia.
Yeah, Patricia. I think Patricia's calling plays, which is insane because
he's a DC.
I thought.
What?
But listen.
Yeah,
the point about New England.
Judge.
The point about New England is the fact that they don't have an identity right now. Their identity is with the Raiders. That's been their identity. Everybody gives the credit to Belichick, but Belichick is not an offensive guy. Belichick never ran an offense. Belichick was a defensive coordinator with Cleveland and a head coach, a defensive coordinator with the Giants, and then he became a head coach in New England and always had offensive guys. Charlie Weiss. Charlie Weiss was an excellent play caller in college and in the NFL. The guy with the Texans. And then now you talk about Josh McDaniels. Like, he's always had offensive play callers running that offense. Now you're asking somebody who's never done it to take over. I worry about that entire offense. I don't want none of them. None of them. I don't want any offensive player from the New England Patriots on my fantasy team.
Screw you for bringing up Fat Chucky.
Charlie Weiss was great for Notre Dame. I don't know why you sit there and act like why are you? He was great for Notre Dame.
Ran his ass out of town. Brian Kelly actually did something.
And now he's at LSU.
All
right. So, but I was going to go into that route with talking about the receivers in New England. And I agree. I don't think that there is any receiver that I want on my fantasy team. I think it's Damian Harris. And then I'll see if I can get Ramondre Stevenson at a value pick. And that's it. Like, that's all that I'm going for in terms of this Patriots offense. Because can you trust Jacoby Myers? Like, is that a player that you can put any type of
Devante Parker?
You could you can't.
No, you can't.
God.
How do you trust guys on that offense, the receiving court, when Mac Jones is going to throw for 3,400 yards?
How do you know? You don't know their identity. 3,400
yards, 20 touchdowns, and 12 picks or something. 12 or 14.
You don't know. This is the guy that made Devontae Smith was good, but he put up numbers in college.
This ain't college football.
I know.
Did Mac Jones throw anywhere close to 60 touchdowns like he did in college football last year? This is not college football.
I know it's not. But I'm saying, like, he's capable of having a wide receiver one.
But I don't think that this. Wait, a wide receiver one?
What?
No, not this year. I'm saying, like, he can give a wide receiver value. Is what I'm trying to say.
Put it this way. So last year, Mac Jones threw for 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, and 13 picks. So say they open up the offense more and he throws more. Now he throws for, say, 4,500 yards, throws 28 touchdowns and maybe 16 or 17 picks because he's throwing the ball more now. That offense. Well, go ahead.
No. Sorry, finish.
That offense has Jacoby Myers, Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, Devante Parker, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. It's going to be so spread out. Their number one receiver last year was Jacoby Myers. You know what he had? He was wide receiver 43, had 800 yards and 2 touchdowns.
How many catches?
First 2 touchdowns of his career.
He had 83 catches. So 83 catches.
I thought that. I didn't think it was that high.
83 catches, 800 yards, and 2 touchdowns, and he would finish wide receiver 43. And you're saying they're going to have a wide receiver 1?
If those 83 balls go to a healthy Devante Parker, that's a 1,000-yard year, and he's a solid wide receiver. You can't deny that, Aaron.
I also think anybody else would have had at least 3 or 4 more touchdowns. I don't know why Jacoby Myers was like allergic to the end zone either. But other than that,
so what you guys are arguing is from wide receiver 43 to wide receiver 32. 33.
No. I'm just saying.
We're talking about.
No. One, I'm just saying, and I hate when y'all make me do this. This is how all of a sudden I became a Carson Wentz lover. I just don't like your dislike for Mac Jones. Like, I don't like your.
It's fantasy football, AJ.
This is
fantasy football. I don't want a guy that throws 22 touchdowns and 13 interceptions and throws for 3,800 yards. With no weapons on his offense.
But on the same hand, and maybe not you, but so many other people say, oh, I'd have Trevor Lawrence in a heartbeat, and he threw 17 touchdowns. I don't understand why, if they open up the offense more, a guy with the football IQ of Mac Jones can't throw more touchdowns and less interceptions. Just because he threw 13 last year doesn't mean he has to throw more this year. No. We're talking about fantasy relevance. Nobody's taking Trevor Lawrence and saying that's fantasy relevant guy this year. Nobody. I disagree.
Who is doing that?
And it's not me. They were drafting him like hotcakes because his name is T-Law, bro.
What do you mean they're drafting him like hotcakes?
People are talking about
he's being drafted as quarterback. He's being drafted as quarterback 18.
It's also July.
So what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, people are after him. Like, nobody's after him.
So it's conversations I haven't been
low-key becoming a Jags fan.
We're not talking dynasty here. We're not talking dynasty.
I took that away.
So my point was there are no fantasy relevant options. We are talking a redraft.
I'm also not lobbying to draft Trevor Lawrence either. I am just talking about in the generality of the entire
What is me saying a guy that throws 3,800 yards and 22 touchdowns saying don't draft him, don't draft anybody on that team because he's not fantasy relevant? How is that wrong? It's not. He's not relevant.
I also would say that there isn't a Jags pass catcher that I would be comfortable like Christian Kirk or Marvin Jones. Like I'm just as not comfortable drafting a Jaguars pass catcher as I am not comfortable drafting a Patriots pass catcher, to be completely honest. That's
But
all.
I don't think it's about comfort about who you're drafting. We're talking about the talent level. I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody thinks. Kendrick Bourne, Nelson Aguilar don't come close to the talent level of a Marvin Jones and a Christian Kirk. Devante Parker, we can argue because I do believe Devante Parker is talented. My question about him would be staying on the field, right?
Yeah.
So he has the talent. And I was going to answer your point, Dylan. I do think that if those 83 targets go to Devante, or 83 balls are in Devante Parker's hands, that might be a fantasy relevant season. My question is, I don't think 83 balls get in his hand because of that offense.
I don't either, but I said if those balls are in his hands.
They don't feature an outside wide receiver like that. They never have. Randy Moss has been the only one, and we're talking about arguably the greatest receiver to ever play the game. They do not feature outside receivers.
Since Tom Brady's moved on, they've tried. It's just failed miserably. You know, like miserably.
Who have they tried?
The Josh Gordon failed miserably. N'Keal Harry failed miserably. Nelson Aguilar, and he's not a big body, but they had him on the outside, failed miserably. So now you bring in a Devante Parker who has shown some talent, but as we have said, can't stay on the field. Could be another try. Could also be another failed miserably.
Aaron, you one crazy man. You one crazy man.
Young quarterbacks, we always talk about it. Middle of the field, tight ends, running backs, slot guys. So first, because that's how they read a defense. It's the easiest thing to read. It's right in front of you. So I'm sorry if I'm not excited about the outside guys of the New England Patriots because I don't think Mac Jones, as smart as he is, it's the NFL. This ain't college smart. This is NFL smart. And he hasn't seen enough NFL defenses.
I'll say this last thing. Respectfully, I will have the Mac Jones. I can't stand your hate for him when we talk real football because in fantasy, yes, I was not lobbying to draft him. But that may be a more real football conversation in the season because that's where I just
it's not hate. It's not hate.
Oh, it's hate.
You've
used the word hate.
I hate where he was drafted. So he will always be held to the standard of a first-round draft pick to me. And I don't care. Any first-round draft pick, if you don't live up to that, I'm gonna criticize you. This is not about Mac Jones not being able to play football. He's not there to play football. He is there to be a franchise quarterback. If he does not prove that, then it was a bust. It's a wasted pick. I'll say the same thing about Zach Wilson. I'll say the same thing about Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, any of those guys. I said it about Carson Wentz. It's not the situation like a Dak Prescott where you're drafted in the 4th round.
Right.
Those expectations aren't the same. So when you're drafted in the 1st round, you have an expectation to live up to. Mac Jones will be held to that expectation, and he's got to prove me wrong. He's got to prove to me that he's a franchise guy. I don't believe
Brandon LaFell, Malcolm Mitchell. Dude, you're really messing with my head right now. These outside guys don't work.
They do not feature outside wide receivers in New England.
Crazy.
The one player has been an exception. Even when Deion Branch was great. Deion Branch was a PPR monster. He worked all over the field. He was not a guy that was just line up outside and say, go get it. Their offense has never featured it. It didn't matter what offensive coordinator they've been in.
That's nuts.